Have you ever noticed that it seems like the TV personalities, the top tier celebrities, the biggest YouTubers, and that one guy at your job who keeps finding a way to get promoted all seem a bit off? Either they're socially thrown off, exploit people for their own benefit, or treat their fans and coworkers like peasants who owe them something. I was taught to treat people how I want to be treated growing up, to be polite and show that I have manners amongst other things. I was told that people who don't will get their just due. And if this is the case, how can both of these things be true? And to add on top of all that, we were all told to do our best in anything we strive for. Study hard, work harder. I think we all know someone who found success, but it seems like they didn't work the hardest to get there. Well, I found what I believe to be that common link. No, you don't have to do sacrificial rituals or denounce your moral compass. All these figures know how to take up space better than anyone around them. I'm not saying that being a good person won't get you anywhere. That has its own set of rewards. But having your work recognized largely depends on how much physical and mental space you take up in your area of focus. So here's 3 ways to take up space and get noticed for the work that you're putting in, whether it's at your job, your business, in entertainment, or just a hobby. Oh yeah, and you won't have to sell your soul to do so. So I hope you enjoy. Naturally wanting to start off with something important, number 1 is don't be scared to tell everyone exactly what it is that you do. Most people are going to want to skip over this part or downright refuse to because they're scared of 3 key things. Those reasons being 1, not seeming humble enough, 2, not being an expert quite yet so they don't want to be called out on it, and number 3, not wanting to be that guy who never stops talking about what they're doing. Now, the first thing, humility is not downplaying your skills for other people's sake. And plenty of people get this confused because they think being humble is never bragging on yourself. They think that being humble is crawling yourself into a shell so that other people can shine and you take the back seat so others can save face, and that's simply not true. Being humble or showing humility is knowing that there's always room for improvement, and that even if you are the best, that you got there because you put an immense amount of work in, not because you were born better than other people, not because you got to where you are because you're just him, that's just who you are, not because you were born to fit this role. You got to where you are because you put a lot of work in, or you have connections, and that if somebody else was to put in just as much work as you, then they can be just as good as you or better. And for the people that are scared to tell people what they do because they fear being a non-expert, you will never be that expert or someone's go-to on the topic until you shed the fear of elevation. You're not going to be a complete expert in your first year. You're not going to know everything more than everyone else because there are people who dedicate their entire lives to whatever it is that you want to do. But as long as you're doing the work quietly in the background, you can talk to people about things because, again, you want to be the go-to person. You want to be recognized for your work. And people are so busy with everything in their everyday lives that they're probably not paying attention to things unless it is being presented to them in their face. And for the people who don't want to be that guy who always talks about whatever it is that they're doing, that guy is an invisible barrier set by people who don't want to live in their own inadequacy. If you are dedicating a good portion of your life to the pursuit of something, you should be able to talk about it to your heart's desire. How many people do you think said, man, that Kobe guy never stops talking about basketball? Probably not a lot. And if you were having a conversation with Kobe during his lifetime, especially during his playing days, it's a good chance that it was in of or surrounded by the idea of basketball because he dedicated a great portion of his entire life to the game of basketball. The second way to take up space better than anybody around you is finding gaps that aren't being filled, aka finding a way to be different. In the face of any industry or field, there's an uncapped number of people trying to take the lid off of it and change their lives forever. For you to find an unfilled gap, you must be consistently studying, keeping an ear to the streets, and finding patterns that everyone else who's willing to do something about it isn't. Think about YouTubers who carved themselves a lane, like Mr. Beast with his earlier on charity videos, or Kai Cenat with his live streaming real life on a platform that was really created and being done by video gamers. Neither of them were the first to do it, but they did fill these gaps in a way that made them different enough to be entertaining. It wasn't the most polished, but creativity created enough leverage that they didn't initially need super high production quality. So whatever work you're looking to be recognized for, think about gaps that you could potentially fill and be creative when doing so. And as you continue to build on this, you can increase the quality and polish up some of the mistakes that you're making as you go along. And the last pillar is probably the most obvious, but also probably the most important. And that's to stay consistent long enough to be the guy. Because none of this other stuff matters if you don't stick with it long enough to be someone's go-to for whatever you want to be recognized for. There are 1% cases where people strike gold quickly, but that's simply the exception and not the rule. And it's honestly probably better that way, because quickly obtained success can be lost just as quickly. And I can't speak for everyone, but I do think that sustained success, or in this case recognition, is the goal. Because when someone blows up fast, they usually have a moment, and people like them for that one thing that they produce that people like, and not for who they are, compared to being liked for your journey, liked for your progression, your string of production, where people like and ride for who you are and not just your moment in the spotlight, therefore making you more stable and harder to turn against. I hope that makes sense. But that's all for today's video. I tried to be as quick and concise as I could. Please let me know your thoughts. Let me know if I missed anything. I hope this could give you some perspective and help you out with something. And let me know what talents you want to be spotlighted for, be recognized for. And I'll see you in the next one.